thought today I could talk about welcoming negativity. And for maybe some people, thinking about welcoming negativity, welcoming darkness, welcoming even unconsciousness would sound crazy. And for people who have maybe been on the healing journey for a little bit longer, or who have spent enough time in spirituality, you start to realize that the only way I can truly be conscious, the only way I can truly be positive, is to welcome my experience rather than pushing it down or shoving it or trying to shut it out. Like if we're having, like for me, sometimes I have fantasies around sex that feel rather unconscious. But I can't be thinking this. I can't be having these fantasies about someone who I really don't desire to have sex with. Like oftentimes it's either our hormones or like our past, like for me, I use pornography, which definitely feeds a little bit more sexual fantasies, or feeds our fantasies about being intimate with, just feeds our fantasies in general. And what we learn is if I go, I can't be thinking this, those thoughts are just going to get louder. The more we avoid thoughts of unconsciousness, the more we avoid our negativity, the louder those thoughts, those feelings become, and the more they take us over. The less actual control we have over our choices, because when we say I can't experience something, I can't is always a statement of unconsciousness. I can't, I don't care. If someone says that to you, says something about something they're going through, it's okay to feel like I don't care, but if we're making choices from a place of I don't care or I can't, we are in a place of unconsciousness, because unconsciousness is always from a place of denial, rejecting. And if you're rejecting your unconscious aspects, or rejecting the parts of you that are spiteful, angry, hateful, that's the moment those parts take you over. And it's not our unconsciousness possessing us, but it's the pain within that unconsciousness saying, face me, feel me, acknowledge me. And when we don't face, feel, and acknowledge it, it then throws a fit that usually, most of the time, leads you from acting from places how you wouldn't want to act. Like for an example, if you're feeling rather angry and go, I can't be feeling anger right now, and we, instead of acknowledging the anger we feel, we push it down, we're just keeping that anger trapped within us. And when we trap something within us, it eventually boils over. And it's the same for any feeling, any thought, any desire. And the people that are the most unconscious are the least aware of their unconsciousness, and try to avoid the feelings of unconsciousness the most. And the people that are the most conscious and aware are welcome it all. They take the darkest aspects of themselves and they go, come here, honey, I want to love you, I want to care for you, and I want to express you in healthy ways through my art, through my paintings, through my poems, through my drawings, because I know every time I express something, I pull it out of me. Every time I'm willing to welcome something and acknowledge it, the willingness just to feel and experience what we're experiencing as it is. Feeling is alchemy in action. Feeling is transmutation happening, and our willingness to feel it is the transmutation, because everything lives within us for how much or how little we've learned. Everything lives within us for how little we've learned from it. And our willingness to feel something, our willingness to allow our mind to think whatever it needs to think, is allowing the experience to up level us to someone who no longer needs that experience, because we've learned everything we've needed to learn from it by experiencing it. And if we're unwilling to experience certain feelings, or we feel sadness, sorrow, grief, despair, and we go, it's time to check out, it's time to smoke weed, it's time to go out drinking, those feelings are just going to build up within you. And the more you try and push down feelings, the higher emotional waves you're going to have, right? Of all the feelings that go unacknowledged within us, then creates our internal environment where we have high peaks and low lows, because it's almost like our file cabinet of feelings is getting over cluttered. And in the over clutteredness, it becomes more chaotic. And we can take that to our internal experience. If our feelings feel really chaotic, maybe we're not really taking any time to feel them. And anytime we have a feeling come up, we go, it's time to avoid, it's time to numb, it's time to check out. And we're just creating more chaos within us. And real peace and real well-being is found by feeling them, because as we feel it, it's almost like us organizing that file cabinet, pulling out the files that no longer we need, and creating more spaciousness within the file cabinet, which when you start to acknowledge and face your feelings, no matter what feeling it is, no matter despair, sorrow, anxiety, if we go, I welcome this despair, sorrow, anxiety, and I thank it for helping me become a better person by being willing to feel this, we are then starting to pull those files out of our filing cabinet, because we've learned everything we've needed to learn from them. And our filing cabinet becomes more spacious when people say they feel peaceful, when people say they feel serenity, or say they feel harmony or balance within them. What they're really talking about is spaciousness or emptiness, and it's the spaciousness of the light of your soul to exist within you. And we get there by welcoming the hard feelings as well as the easy ones. We get there by not trying to push down thoughts that we don't like, but thanking those thoughts for being here with us, and being a reminder of the next part of ourselves that we can love. I love you, disturbing thoughts. I love you, sexual fantasies. I love you, unconscious desires. Because as we say, I love you to those parts, we are bringing the consciousness, the light of our soul, the light of what we are, up more into our thoughts and our mind, to start to heal and transform those aspects of ourselves we don't like to look at on our behalf. And all you have to do is say, thank you. I see these sexual fantasies. I see these thoughts that I don't like. I see my spitefulness, my vengefulness, my anger. And I welcome it, and I allow this experience, these thoughts, to be a part that I can love, and a part that up-levels me into a better version of myself by my willingness to feel, because our experiences are what make us better. And if we're unwilling to experience our internal experience, we are just slowing our growth, and we are slowing the greater peace and well-being we could find by welcoming whatever is arising, whatever negativity, whatever hatred. And if we feel like we are getting triggered by someone, and often what I've been learning, honestly, lately, is like when something happens that's really triggering, can I take a couple hours break? Because if we feel like our emotions are surging, it might not be the best time to try and respond to someone. Or if we feel super disappointed or triggered by how someone acted, whether we think we're right or wrong, and we notice that all the responses we're coming up with are a little angry or spiteful or judgmental, or telling people that they should have chose differently, even when we are trying to be conscious and aware, it might just be a good idea to take a couple hours away from responding to that person and circle back either like 4 hours later or the next day. And we learn to work with our feelings rather than avoiding our feelings. And something I taught about this in my yoga class tomorrow, but I think it would be a good thing to talk about, is our feelings are messages. And a good way to interpret our feelings is, this feeling isn't out to get me. This feeling is just a message about the experience I'm having. And something I taught about yesterday in my yoga class was on hopelessness. When we feel hopeless, and when I've been noticing, like over the weekend, I was feeling a little hopeless, and I noticed I was focusing all on what I wasn't happening, all that was going wrong in my day, rather than what was going right. And for an example, I don't have a car, and I divvy biked to this place where my friend has a portable sauna, but they were running late and they ended up being 2 hours late. And I sat and I waited and walked around in nature for a little bit in the cold waiting for them. And while I had to wait outside for a lot longer than I was expecting, and but and while it might have been a little uncomfortable for me and I felt a little disappointed, I still got a super long sauna in, still got to connect with people I love. And it's our choice to some degree on what we focus on. It's okay to feel disappointment, but we don't have to solely fixate on how disappointed we feel. Like, what was the positive in that experience? I still got to sauna for over 2 hours. I still I got to spend time with people I really love and enjoy spending time with. And there's always a gift in every moment. I got to sit out and spend more time in nature than I typically would. And it's our choice on how much negative we want to focus on and how much positive. And it's okay to feel disappointed or to feel negative, but when we feel like it's coming from a place of fixation or hyper focus, it might be a good idea of to notice more what is right in this moment. What is going right? The fact that I get to spend time out in nature, the fact I get to spend time watching these people feed birds that I would never have gone to see if these people were running on time. And allowing what is right to be something we notice more often when we are feeling disappointed, when we're feeling hopeless. Because when we feel hopeless, it's usually a sign of I'm noticing everything that's wrong that's happening, everything that I wish was in my life that isn't, everything I want to change that hasn't changed, whether in my life, in the world. And I'm taking zero time to focus on what is actually a positive in this experience, what is actually right, because our orientation or our focus in our life does affect our feelings. It's not the only thing that contributes to our feelings, but it absolutely does influence them, just like what you consume. Like if you're constantly watching aggressive, angry, like chaotic TV shows, or the 24-hour murder channel, constantly watching dark things, constantly watching things that are stressful or chaotic, is going to lead you to being I'd say more addicted to stimulation, a more maybe argumentative person than if you took more time to do things that were peaceful. Like, for example, take a yoga class or listen to some peaceful music. And sometimes we need to listen to like heavy metal or heavier music. There's definitely, or like watch shows that, every now and then an action film or something that's maybe has a little bit more arguing in it. It's kind of fun to experience once in a while. But if we find ourselves gravitating towards that every day, we're more likely than not feeding the stimulation that our ego craves, rather than giving our ego a little bit of a detox with some things that are a little bit more peaceful, right? Life is all about balance. And if we find we're constantly consuming things that make us maybe feel, how do we feel after consuming them? I think would be a great question. After I watch this show that might have a little bit more arguing in it, or might be a little bit more upbeat or more action-packed or more violent, how do I feel afterwards? And how do I feel when I take time to maybe read a book or go work out or listen to some music that makes me feel uplifted? And can I work to find more balance in what I consume? Can I work to find more balance of when things happen that are disappointing? Can I still balance that out with noticing some of the things that are going right? And they can be the most simplest, basic things. Like, oh, I dressed myself amazingly and I have the right to feel good about it. I brushed my teeth this morning, I have the right to feel good about it. I ate a healthy lunch and I have the right to feel good about it. I cleaned my apartment today, I have the right to feel good about it. And we just point out a little bit of what's going right in our day. It's going to balance out what's going wrong, and we will feel more hopeful about our day, about our future, rather than feeling hopeless and like nothing is going our way. And so when we're thinking about how we are feeling, can we be aware of what we're focusing on and what we are consuming, and can we work to find balance? It doesn't mean we can't watch things that are action packed or maybe even a little bit more violent or a little bit more arguing between the characters every now and then, but if it's something we are consuming every day, we are just going to be feeding greater agitation and greater chaos within our body, then we will be peace and harmony. And if we're someone who feels like we're searching for greater peace and harmony, can we find some activities? And like, I love yoga, but even working out, find some things that are more peaceful. Reading books typically are a little bit more peaceful than watching shows or watching TV. And think about, what are activities I could do? We all have intuition. Our intuition will tell us if we ask the question, what are activities that I could do that I would enjoy, that would bring greater peace into my life, rather than stress, overwhelm, anxiety? Because I guarantee if you're watching a show where people are talking about the person that got murdered next door, and it's like a true crime show or podcast, and we're listening to that every day, we are going to feel a little more scared of life, a little bit more agitated, and we might even feel like someone could jump out of the bushes and attack us. And it's partly due to what we're consuming, and it's partly due to how agitated our nervous system gets from consuming things like that constantly. And so as we think about hopelessness is just a reminder to focus on more of what's right. And I can just say, notice what I did well today, or notice some things like, I picked up some of the clothes on my floor, I have the right to feel good about it. And as we point out what's right, we're helping our mind orient to focus more on what's going right in our life than what's not. And another kind of feeling that's been coming up, or that popped in my head today, was regret. And I'm someone who used to regret a lot of things in my life. And it still comes up every now and then. I'm not a perfect human being. I think the definition of human is being a little imperfect, and being willing to love and rejoice in that just as much as what you feel like you do that's perfect. But I used to regret a lot of my life, and I used to focus, I think, a fair amount of time focusing on like what I wish I would have happened in the past that didn't happen. Like the people I wish I would have got to know that I never got to know, the people even in high school and college, the people that I used to wish I like hooked up with that I never hooked up with. And thinking about all the things that I wish were different about my past. And what you learn about regret is, as you're willing to feel regret and as you welcome regret, you'll get to a point of, you go, why am I regretting this? This has happened a couple years ago. I think if it was meant to happen, it would have happened. And maybe I became a better version because it didn't happen rather than it did. And we learn that through regret. If everything happened how I imagined it should have happened, or wished it would have played out differently, we'd find we would have a lot less growth in our life. Because growth, oftentimes our deepest pain, or a lot of our heavier pain that we carry in our body, is hidden in disappointment. And if we never get disappointed or never get embarrassed, we never end up facing that pain. And the pain of feeling disappointment is actually what helps humble us to be more conscious and loving. And it actually helps us grow in a rather efficient manner. And if everything played out how you wanted it to go, it would be playing out serving your ego, not your soul, because your soul always chooses its greatest growth. And oftentimes Our ego was just hoping things happened differently so it could have soothed some of its patterns rather than having to face those patterns on a deeper level. And healthy relationships are built off disappointment. You are not going to be in a healthy dynamic with someone if you're trying to hide disappointing them. And it's not about getting it perfect. It's about trying your best. And if you look back and you go, oh, I could have advocated for my needs a little better in that moment, the next time around, try it differently. Try and advocate for your needs a little better. If it's still too scary, try again the time after that. But really, when we disappoint people, a lot of the times it's coming from, we just have different expectations of how the moment is going to go. Like maybe if we're in a relationship, like one of our partner's super excited to go try a new restaurant, wants to go out to this restaurant tonight, and we're feeling like we had a really hard day, or are integrating some of our pain from the past, and we just really need a comfy, cozy meal at home that's going to be the most supportive to us. And if we said, honey, I would love to go to this restaurant a different day, but today I really feel like I need a more quiet background. I need just cozy time with you and me. Or even maybe cozy time alone for a little bit because I'm just having a little bit of a hard time right now, right? We are advocating for what's actually going to help us be the best version of ourselves through this experience we're having and afterwards, rather than trying to hide what we actually need, trying to people please and just go along with going out to dinner with our partner. And then we're often usually more irritable, more complaining, more negative because we're avoiding what we actually need. And oftentimes, anytime we're complaining, negative, irritated, it's a great sign of what I could advocate for, what I need in this moment, I'm ignoring. And we find our way out of complaining, out of irritation, out of negativity when we're just willing to be honest with people and go, this is what I need. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I have to take care of myself. And this is what's going to be the most supportive for me in this moment. And if we talk like that to other people, the people who aren't at that same level of connection with us or honesty or the willingness to serve us as much as we are willing to serve them, are going to leave our life. And it's a great way to weed people out. And the people who are truly in it for the long haul are in it just to love and care about you and honor what you need and to feel their disappointment rather than throwing a fit or a tantrum, are going to step up and go, I would love to serve what you need in this moment, and let's just stay home and I'll cook you a nice meal. Right? And we learn that our honesty is actually what leads to discernment. It isn't from trying to hide from people their disappointment. And we're never going to find ourselves in a healthy relationship dynamic if we're not willing to disappoint people. And when people are disappointed, we aren't disappointing. We aren't hurting them. We are hurting their expectations. And expectations are just what you think is going to happen. And it actually is what helps pull people more into reality, right? When people are disappointed, their ideas of how they're relating to life dissolve. And they go, oh, what I thought was going to happen isn't happening. And why don't I become a little bit more curious of the moment, because this is playing out different than I expected. And we pull people into relating to life, how life is actually going, and being more attuned to how our partner actually feels rather than just thinking about what we want to do and doing it. And I would say to bring it back to regret, because I think I could finish a little bit more out on that. When we feel like we're regretting, regretting is always coming from a place of not acknowledging the gift of the moment we experience. And if we feel like we're coming from a place of regret. Regret is, I regret this for the growth that I'm unwilling to acknowledge I received from this moment. And if we just are willing to feel our regret, it will wake us up from regretting, because eventually we'll get sick of spending time regretting and going, maybe I became the best version of myself because I didn't get what I want. And me thinking what if it had played out differently is just my mind thinking, and it's not actually serving me, and it's not going to change the past. And if I want to move beyond regret, what if I took the choices I wish I had made in the past and make them in this moment? Because you aren't able to change the past necessarily. I don't know, maybe some spiritual people would say differently, but you can change your choices in this moment. And you change, if you're willing to change in the moment, or change, saying, what do I regret in my past and can I choose differently now? Your regret instantly healed, because you learned what you needed to learn from it, which is, maybe I need to put myself out there more. Maybe, like for me, maybe if I'm regretting not practicing my guitar, like a while ago, maybe I can practice more now. And we learn regret is just saying, hey, whatever you wish you had done in the past, do it now. And if I wish, and if it's too hard to do it now, we try again in a week. It's not about doing everything instantaneously and it all goes perfectly. It's about picking yourself up, trying again. It didn't work. I fell out of practicing my guitar. I'll try again. I'll try and see if I can find some time tomorrow to practice, right? And we make it work. And when we think about regret, however we showed up in the past, can we be willing to forgive ourselves? Because true freedom is in forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for how you chose in the past, forgiving others how they chose. And we find the greatest softness and kindness and respect for other people when we're willing to be forgiving of them. And it doesn't mean we need to find forgiveness instantaneously. And some things are going to happen that are so traumatic, so abusive and destructive, it might take us 20 years to find forgiveness, and that's okay. It's not something that's always meant to dawn instantaneously, and the universe is not going to give you more gold stars because you were able to forgive in the moment. The universe says, what is your process? What are you feeling? And can you allow the process to take you to forgiveness rather than trying to force forgiveness or pretend like you're forgiving when you really feel incredibly angry, spiteful, vengeful, regretting of what happened. And something I do is, when things happen that I go, I can't believe this has happened, or I can't believe this has gone on for so long, or I can't believe like the level of pain this person caused me, I call on a guide. And you can pick any guide you want. You could do Kuan Yin, you could probably even do your ancestors, you could just use the word God, you could use Mother Mary or Jesus, but I go, Mother Mary, please forgive this person on my behalf. And when I feel like I'm fixating or focusing on something that someone did that harmed me, and I'm spending more time thinking about it than I would like, I go, Mother Mary, please forgive this person on my behalf. And what are the things I can be grateful from this experience, if I can think of any, right? What actions, or how did I grow from this? How did I realize of how to take better care of myself, take better care of my body? What ways did this push me into finding greater healing for myself that I never would have found if this experience hadn't happened? And can I be willing to focus on the growth rather than focus on the negative? Because if we're constantly focusing or regretting on what didn't play out, we're just going to feel more hopeless, more despair, and more sorrow than if we go, can I pick myself back up? Can I notice how this event that happened inspired some growth in me, inspired me to be a better person, led me to a greater purpose and calling? Because I know for me, the mistakes that I've made, the wounds I carry, is what is actually fuels me to help others, what actually fuels me to listen, to be kind, to be respectful. And it made me into the most incredible version that if I hadn't had abuse, if I hadn't, and it doesn't mean we have to be grateful for abuse, or we definitely don't stay in abusive environments. We always remove ourselves from environments that are abusive, traumatic. But when we're out of those environments and looking back, can we be willing to say, how did this help me grow? And obviously, this is a perspective after you've had a couple years removed from it, of 5 years down the line, when I look back at this event, I can see the growth that occurred because of it. I can see how this helped me face my pain. I could see how this pushed me into greater healing, or helped me move beyond some patterns, or helped me be more kind and compassionate with those around me. And it was actually, to some degree, it actually served my journey, and we only regret things that we are unwilling to face, feel, and grow from. And if we are willing to grow from something, it doesn't matter what happens, it becomes a gift from the growth we received from it. And it doesn't mean we have to hold that perspective and never think about what would have happened if this thing didn't happen, or if this person didn't harm me. That's normal. But when we feel that, can we take a moment to notice and remember how that event pushed us into our greatest healing, our greatest growth, or how it inspired us to at least search for greater healing, or how it might have inspired us to be more loving and compassionate with those around us, or to help other people that survive that same trauma, or to be more inspired to listen to people when they're sharing about their pain, or whatever it did that helped us grow. And we might still be finding our way into that growth, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean we can't feel bad about our experience. Welcome your feeling bad. Welcome your regret. Welcome all the parts of you that feel hateful and vengeful. And when we feel those parts, it's an invitation to love them deeper, not as an invitation to push them down or say, I can't be feeling this. We welcome our anger, we welcome our rage, we welcome our pain, and we go, how can I care for myself better? And how can I love these parts deeper that feel this way? How can I express these feelings into art? And your art can be as dark as you need. Like, I do anger journals a lot when someone really pisses me off, and I just wish the worst things to them. And before I start the journal, I say, may all these words only serve the greatest healing within me and within all. And then I wish, like, may all their whole family die, and may they get a bunch of parasites and have cancer. And I just wish the most awful things I can think. And at the end, I say, may all these words be returned back to the light as blessings for all. But it's a way of expressing it out of me rather than holding it within me. And when we allow our pain to become our next greatest art, we allow that pain to be turned into beauty, and beauty is growth. And when we're willing to grow from our pain, we find we have a lot less to regret. When we're willing to serve others who were hurt by how we were hurt, we find we have a lot less to regret. And we don't have to find forgiveness instantaneously, but if we find it hard to forgive, or we find we're constantly fixating on how this person hurt us, can we relinquish, like, universe, please forgive this person on my behalf? And can we think about, what are the ways I want to grow? How have I already grown from this event? And can we focus a little bit more on the positive, because our focus will affect our feelings, and it will help us feel a little bit more hopeful for our future. So I hope that helps. Thank you for listening.